So with now groups of worlds having concluded and we're moving into the knockout stage, I will now recap the champions picked in the different positions and some of their statistics over the course of groups. Starting in the top lane, going over the most played, Ornn, Renekton are the picks that are standing out with 17 and 16 times being picked. Shortly following that, Volibear and Camille with 13 and 11 games. A huge gap then for Shen with his 5 games. We see Ornn and Bruiser tank top laners are highly valued at the moment. Looking into the win rates, we see similar things. Jax with a 100% win rate comes from the 3 times he was played and 3 times he won. So champions that were picked once or twice are not included in any of the win rate statistics for this video. Simply put, because even 3 games is a bit less reliable than any other statistic, but one-hit wonders or two-hit wonders are very much player dependent, and it is very unlikely that a player picked the same champion, the same niche champion 3 times. As such, Jax 3 times 3 wins is more reliable than the 1 or 2 games Nagori played on Canon. Following that, Volibear 61.5 and Shen with 60% win. We see these tank top laners with good win rates. Also, we note these champions weren't played that often as an Ornn with his 52.9% win rate, or the more difficult champion Camille with 54.5% win rate. These champions are often played by weaker teams and perform very okay, but not to the level that they should be performed. Similarly, champions like Lucian, we will see him later, often played by weaker teams. As such, the win rate is not that astonishing. Moving into the next position, the jungle. Graves is the complete outlier here. 36%, 36 games. Yeah, it's a massive amount of games. In nearly every game he was able to be elected into the jungle position. Shortly after that, Lilia and Nidalee with 19 and 15 games are defining the AP jungle pool. Kindred and Lee Sin are the next 80 junglers, but they're like far off. So we see that meta revolves around early mid-game farm junglers, and more than ever, an AD jungler like Graves is very popular because he works well with some AP mid laners that we're going to talk over a bit. In the win rates, we see similar stuff. Evelyn 66.7%, Nidalee Volibear surprisingly 60%, and then we see negative win rates for Graves and Kindred, 44.4 and 42.9%. So a champion like Kindred relies on many factors: the player's skill, how the team plays around it, and the enemy draft. Right? Champions like Gragas can completely decimate Kindred on their own. Additionally, Graves is very often picked, and winning teams are finding counters to these meta champions. So champions that are picked very often will have counters that cause them to lose more than you would expect them to. So moving into the mid lane position, we see, as I said, AP mid laner Syndra, Orianna are the forefront of the mid lane pool, working well with Graves, setting up CC or just having the damage AD AP mix. Following that, Lucian, Galio, Azir, Echo, DF are all together with different similar numbers in plate. Seeing that, we can assume the mid lane pool is not super diverse, but there are a plethora of champions that are being picked into this position at the moment. Mainly AP champions, because Graves is such a high priority and it's like to be picked. In the win rate though, we see a bit of a different story. Set a 100% win rate, a champion that can completely nullify matchups with his passive and W. Echo as a counter pick for Syndra, for example, makes her, even though she's picked often, not winning that much. Lucian and TF, very surprisingly, not very prioritized in the pick, but seemingly they are winning a lot. Additionally, Galio 44.4%. Yeah, he's not what they need in the mid lane. He's not offering AP damage. He has some setup for the jungler, which is good, but in the later stages of the game, with the way people draft at the moment, with no real engage, Galio has no one to follow up with his ultimate. As such, he's not as good as he was before. Additionally, the missing damage is also a concern. Moving into the ADC position, we see Senna, Ashe as most played, shortly followed by Jhin. These three build the triumvirate of AD carries at the moment, with all their utility and safety in the bot lane. Shortly after, we have some champions from Ezreal, Kate, and Kalista, some A or B tier in comparison to the first three. Then Misfortune Aphelios with 3 games, champions that are niche and are counters to the meta champions. These counters seem to work very well, with Misfortune having 100% and Aphelios having 66.7% win rate. Remember, 3 games played for each of them. Shortly followed Caitlyn and Jhin with 57.1 and 56.3. Yeah, they have some decent win rates and they're not most played, so we can assume they're doing quite good. As such, we're also not seeing Senna and Ashe here. Together they were picked 46 times, which is like in nearly every game. So yeah, we're not seeing them here because obviously then they're losing quite a lot and have a win rate of around 50%, I assume. Not knowing this at top of my head, but yeah, the same story we saw with the Grapes, I would assume. Moving into the support position, we see Bard and Nautilus in first, followed by Pantheon, Leona, Tam. So we have some early and mid-game supports who excel at very different things. Bard more for pick, Nautilus, Leona more for tank and engage, and Pantheon for the full massacre at level 3. So yeah. Additionally, we see the numbers 12 times, 10 times, 9, 8, 7. So we can assume that there's a large champion pool in the support position, with many different picks being semi-viable. Still, looking at win rates, we see Lulu with 75% being a complete outlier. Similarly, Pantheon with just 60%, because we have many supports with the 66.7% win rate, for example, Bard, Leona, Zed, and even Blitzcrank. So it shows even these niche supports are quite good as they are winning games. Still, we see Bard being the most popular and also a very winning pick here. So we can assume that he is indeed a very strong pick. And well, this is confirmed by the players who are picking him in most cases, are being one of the best Bard players in the world. Moving lastly to some overall champion statistics, going over the most banned. Lucian, TF, Nidalee, 36, 34 and 30 times they were banned. So this explains why we see so little games and so little statistics for these three. Ornn and Renekton 28 and 22 times are also very relevant and prioritized by the teams. Talking about why Lucian, TF and Nidalee are very strong. So Lucian is very versatile in his item builds. He's strong in every stage, very good laning phase which can snowball into some jungle pressure. Additionally, he is AD, as such he enables AP junglers even more. Yeah, overall a very dominant champion in the 1v1, in early skirmishes, and even his damage in late game teamfights is very strong. Twisted Fate, with his ult and his gold card, can also play very good around his jungler and help him in dives or in invades. Additionally, he has good wave clear, making him more prevalent in 1v1s as well, dodging some strong matchups. Nidalee, overall a very decent jungler, AP damage is very high, good early fighting, and her farm speed is also very strong. On and Renekton, I don't really have to talk about it. Sadly though, I have to say a few words over Renekton. Renekton is here, not because he's a super strong pick per se, but he's banned against some top laners from Chinese teams as they are very strong on him, which is rather sad that this is banned then, because these top laners, if they are making Renekton ban worthy, they have to be really strong players for themselves. As such, I would love to see other threats in the top lane who are even stronger than Renekton in team fights and in the 1v1, and yeah, maybe are not as great as at level 1, but a champion can also be great at level 6. You have just to wait for 4 minutes or 5 minutes. So yeah, I would love to see players like Finn or Lang-X. Well, okay, he isn't there at the moment anymore, but I would have loved to see other picks from them, Jax, Irelia, Fiora, these champions who can or cannot teamfight very well, but they can do other things and are more mechanically intensive. So going over the win rates, please note here are champions like Sylas and Echo who were picked in both mid lane and in the jungle. As such, these win rates are from both positions together. Sylas, Jax and MF as well as Echo are many counter picks that were picked into some matchups like Syndra, for example, or Camille, or the Volibear. These champions as such have inflated high win rates, but also very low pick rates as they are very situational and absolutely not blind pickable. Then lastly we have 11 champions with a 66.7% win rate. We went over a few of them in this video already, but remember these were champions like Zed, Eve, Leona or Twisted Fate. So yeah, we have quite a bunch of champions with high win rates and even more with mediocre win rates as well. As you saw in the video, as such we see that there are many picks more or less viable at the moment with a set meta and some champions branching out of it to counter some meta champions like Syndra, for example, or Volibear. Lastly, going over the most present champions in banned pick. This means champions that are either banned or picked, and then divide the statistic through the number of games that were actually played at the World's group stage. In first position we see Lucian, Nidalee and Ornn with 91.8%. This is very expected, as we saw Lucian banned 36 times and Nidalee and Ornn also in the top 5 of banned champions and respectively very high in the picked champions for that position as well. So yeah, these three picks are very highly contested. Shortly after we have Graves and Syndra, who are also a very dynamic duo, which are more picked than banned. Remember, Graves was picked 36 times. We see Graves first pick very often. Additionally, we have many great Syndra players, so this is also not only in the meta, but also for the individual players, a very contested pick. So yeah, TF and Renekton. TF also very often banned, not often picked because not many teams can correctly play around his strengths, as not many teams are playing around their jungler in the same way the top teams are doing. And yeah, then lastly Renekton, the Sinner champ, everyone picks him because they have no idea what to pick else. And yeah, and we saw in some cases he's ban worthy to take away, let's say, a safe option or a strong pick for players like Binder, for example. So yeah, this rounds up the recap for the champions in the group stage. So now we have a better grasp on the meta and the games we saw, and maybe we can predict some priorities for the upcoming best of fives, and we can make some predictions based on this, if we will see the same champions again, or if we see more new champions moving on to the next stage with more density of good players, right? So champions like Irelia, Zoe and Akabi are probably being more relevant now because nearly every player in these remaining 8 teams can play these more difficult champions, or at least he should be able to. And yeah, if there are no hard counters open, we see already that Akali, for example, on Knight can do quite a lot of work. Additionally, we hope that champions that aren't as doing as well, but were picked quite often, for example, like Galio, aren't prioritized as heavily anymore, as they are a trap in some cases. So yeah, this is about it. Player recap video about their statistics in the different positions will also be following. But that's it for now. Wish you all a great day and see you around.